welcome on behalf of the Pickens County Chamber of Commerce. My name's Denise and I'm the president. I want to thank the City of Jasper, Mayor, council members, and of course all the staff and maintenance and everybody that came out and did this. I can remember being out here with our leadership group when it was nothing but a bunch of trees and maybe a dirt road. But Mayor's going to talk, but on behalf of the community, it's not only adding some leisure to our community that we were able to add into our community guide that's going to be published, but it's also in remembrance of a very important person. So I'm going to turn it over to the Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Denise. Lonnie, would you open us in prayer, please?
Lord, we bow here to remember this moment and to dedicate this park to someone who's well deserving. In my lifetime, this was Mama Doris. Me and her son, we rode around together. She always tried to keep us out of trouble. She always had that kind, small, quiet voice. She would always counsel us, give us right guidance. Her doors was always open. I've spent as much time in her house as in mine. Lord, we just thank you for people like that. Can't think of anybody other than my own person that deserves recognition any more than this woman. She was quiet whenever it was her time, and she could express herself very well when it was her time. But Lord, we thank you for her life. We thank you for what she stood for. We thank you for her family. It seems like I just keep making contact with them. I've worked with Alan, Amanda, Lee, Marcia. I've worked with all of them. Lord, I thank you for each day of the memories that I have. And I thank you for the opportunity for the City of Jasper to dedicate this park to a woman such as Doris Wigington. Lord, I ask you for your guidance and your blessings. Amen.
At this time, I would like to recognize the City Council. Are we anywhere close together? I've got Ann Morrow. We have John Faust. Joe would come over, please. Jim Looney. Allison Boyle. Tony Fountain. Let me think. About 3 years ago, we decided to convert our asset into a liability, a park. We always have to, years ago, this property was bought, I'm going to think about 25 years ago. I didn't bother to research that, but I know it was here when I took office, and it was always, well, there was still some outstanding debt, and we finally paid that off in the mid-90s. And I always looked at this property as the city's get out of jail free card. Land was going about $20,000 an acre, and I would hold on to this. People came by wanting to see if the city would sell it. We weren't interested. I just felt if we held this land that sure enough we would need it someday. And sure enough, when we needed it, land values weren't $20,000 an acre anymore. So I guess land investment is not always the best option. I always thought it was. But anyway, that being said, it's still worth $20,000 an acre. This property is about 65 acres, Lonnie, thereabouts. And it's sitting right in the middle of nice developments on both sides. And we've got it north of Jasper. And what we did, went to the city council about 3.5, 4 years ago and decided that, well, the land's not selling, we might as well go ahead and pursue a park. So they were for that, and we continued the process, and we pursued a grant where we hired this young lady out of LJ. As a matter of fact, she worked on our project for the downtown with the Yeager Associates. She pursued a grant, and she was able to get a grant from the City of Jasper for $100,000 from the DNR Trails and Parks program. But anyway, we pursued that, and we after about 6 months to a year, we were approved, and they gave us 2 years to have this completed. And if you count back to 2014, 13, this is about the end of 2012. So we're going to make that all the way back to 2011, because in 2012 I looked around and 8 months were gone, and it seemed like it was raining every other day. And so I basically one day said, we've got to start. So I sent a crew of guys over here, and I believe we started right here and started cutting this trail. I think that's about the time Denise came over, and I think NoPickens.com came over about that time and took some photos. During that time of construction, it rained, seemed like every other day. I remember in December of 2012, I'm standing right there on about 10 o'clock at night, because I have to put the fire out before we leave. And the embers were going sky high, and I could see every light on in Arbor Hills, and I'm sure they wondered why we were trying to burn the forest down. But anyway, those were the events we had, and I would like to recognize the city crew that we have with us today. I saw Gary somewhere, if you didn't wonder. Gary?
Here, over here.
Gary, Jim, Scott, all those guys over there have worked on this project probably more so the last year and a half than any other project. We catch up, but this is the same crew that also weed each town. They also carried Jim's off the garbage route right now. The same guys that do all those other projects built this park. With that $100,000 grant, we had to provide an in-kind match, where the only in-kind we had was those gentlemen right over there. I couldn't go hire new employees. I couldn't put those people to work. We had to take those. And we were sitting over here. I believe Jim turned up. Actually, I think it was a brewer. We also, during this time, we had 2, I'm going to call them 100-year. Allen's here, I'm going to also say that may be a 500-year storm that we had to wash the town away. We lost part of the railroad track out here, and everything here went down to the stream and washed away the bridge, or the culvert on Gennette, and we had to stop and build that. It seems like everything that could go wrong as far as weather and circumstance did go wrong on the project. Anyway, I'd like to also, that they're not here today, I want to recognize Lonnie right now again. Lonnie helped me plan this out. We actually brought Ann in, and we walked these woods. It seemed like it was just yesterday, but 2 years ago now, 2.5. And laid the trails out. If you get an opportunity to walk through, we might even open the trails up for vehicles today for a special situation. Have a little caravan through. But anyway, thank Lonnie for all the effort. Again, I would like to recognize the council again, because they were with this, and we applied for the grant, and they had to vote and take care of everything that made this happen. But anyway, 2013 was coming to an end, and we were having difficulty collecting our money from the federal government. But we were pursuing it, and we used funds out of the general fund to finish building, and finally we got the money from the feds after the year was over. But we were able to build this out of the city treasury and got reimbursed by them. Of course, our labor that we used was paid for entirely by the city. But I can't recall any one contractor we brought in. It was all city employees. But anyway, that's kind of the present. I'd like to jump back to 2002. Well, let's jump back earlier than that. Back in the early 90s, 91, 92, 93, I appointed, with advice and consent of council, a police officer, I think he was captain at the time, appointed him, Bill Wigington, the chief of police, Jasper, Georgia. And Bill and I, we were pretty good friends before that, because I promise you, I don't like to appoint people as chief of police I don't like. But anyway, we were really good friends prior, and so we became even better friends. Bill used to come by and pick me up and ride me around town to see what the police officers doing. I guess that's ride around, you call it day, but if Bill went out, I went out. He'd come pick me up at the house, and we'd take off, and more often than not, we'd end up back over at his house. And Doris would always have something ready to eat, and at that particular time, I weighed somewhere around 230, 235, and before it was over, I was weighing about 250. So, but anyway, I got to know Miss Doris and Bill pretty well during that time. And so Bill had some health issues in the late 2000s, I guess. I'm sorry I don't have all the dates. I'll let the family correct me. But anyway, he retired from the police chief's position, but he wasn't done. He decided to run for council. So now I've got my best friend, former chief of police, now my boss. So now, but he wasn't much acting in those manners. He was always giving me direction and telling me what I should and should not do and what I did and did not do right. But anyway, he was elected council, and he stayed in office until 2000 when he passed away. And at that time, if my memory serves me correctly, there were a few years left on. A couple of years, not enough to have an election, and so the city council appointed Doris as the interim council member. Now, if all this is wrong, we'll correct it all later. But anyway, so Doris became the council by appointment of council, and she stood election the next term, and she won handedly. But anyway, that being said, all this, why is Doris Wigington name on this instead of Bill? We've already put Bill on the road. If I can get the DOT to change out the rest of the road, we'll have it tied in. I knew Alan was going to bring that up. But anyway, that being said, this part, when Doris became council, got on the council, I would go visit Miss Doris quite often. Of course, when she was sick, I went to visit her more. But she would talk about this property. I said, Miss Doris, we might want to talk about selling that property. And I could see her eyes. She wasn't really excited about selling this property. She didn't want to see any more houses. She didn't want to see those things because the traffic was already so bad that she would bring to my attention, what are we going to do with all the traffic we have? And I remember having those conversations fairly distinctly. But anyway, I would go see Miss Doris, and I would ask for her, because during that time, the city of Jasper was zoning everything in sight. We only wanted what property was next to the city. And so we would have all these zoning wars, and people would show up, and I knew I'd have to have a council member or two on my side, so I'd go tell Doris what was going on and so forth. And then we would talk about the property or whatever. And she actually would bring it up to me more often than I would her, because I didn't usually have any good answers for her. But anyway, she would say, why don't we build a park? And I was thinking $20,000 an acre. I said, whoa, we've got to hold on to this asset. But she would say, well, you know, we've got plenty of houses, and we need more land and this, that, and the other. I remember the conversation. I can't remember it detail for detail, but it took place. And every time I'd say, Miss Doris, now what about this annexation we're doing? And she'd say, well, Mayor, and Doris had a dialect, or not a dialect, but an accent, I guess you would say, a southern accent. And there's very few people I can mimic, but I believe I can pick Doris up more often than not. She said, Mayor, if it's good for the children. And she'd say it just about like that. And I'd always say, Miss Doris, it's absolutely good for the children, because we're going to be able to increase our tax base, and we'll be able to build all these things we need to do. But with that, she passed away before we gave in and decided what we're going to do with the land. And this council right here decided, when we approached them to build this, that Miss Doris would be a fitting name to go on the sign that would forevermore be Doris Wigington, City of Jasper Park. Anyway, so Miss Doris, you're welcome. Thank you. With that, I'd like to recognize Alan, who was also a elected official, which I had on my little phone, which I never pulled out, that I need to recognize elected officials. But with that, I'd like to recognize Ms. Martha. If you would like to recognize the family, Lee, Alan, people that I run into every day. I do not want to misplace anybody's name, because I like to be a politician. Alan, if you would, or Marcia.
I'll let Marcia go ahead.
We've got, this is Mother's sister, Aunt Barbara Moore. We have Alan's wife, Rosie, of course. His mother, Jane, Mandy. This is Lee's son, Gabe. We've got a lot of family here. My niece, Emily, and her husband, Blake. My niece, Kim, and her daughter, Hannah. Of course, Lee, my sister, y'all know her. Uncle Joe, mother's brother. Her niece, Kim, Alpha. their babies back there. Those beautiful girls that you can see. That's Lee's husband, Todd. Amanda, Alan's sister. Carter. Greg. Greg. Daddy always calls me Greg. Who did I miss? Who about this?
Better raise your hand. I know you missed somebody.
And Martin, Jason, you're on
Oh, and Margie.
And your husband?
Jason. Oh, Jason and my babies, my grandbabies, and mine. That's
If you would real quick, all the Wigington clan, come right here and face Miss Mary, because I know she's going to say, why didn't I not get this picture? Give me one selfishly with them, and now I'd like to have the council with them.
I'm ready. All right. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
oh, I
Oh,
dropped.
well, that is that okay? That's good. Yes, sir. Okay. Everybody get it? All right, good. That was good. Hold your scissors up. Hold them up.